What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold Podcast, Wednesday, June 24th. A lot to get to today. Wanted to catch up on the College World Series and some NCAA off-season news. Congratulations to the Oklahoma Sooners. They won the national championship on Monday night, the seventh consecutive national championship that has been won by the SEC. I'm going to tell you why this is relevant towards LSU and the SEC as a whole. Oklahoma finished 11th in the regular season in the SEC standings. They lost their last four SEC regular season series. When Ole Miss won the national championship in 2022, they were the last team in the field. This is important because when the SEC routinely gets 12 and 13 teams in, which you want because you want LSU to be one of those, these are the examples that the committee can cite for putting those teams in. Oklahoma got hot at the right time. They went to the number 2 seed, Georgia Tech, and won that regional. They eliminated the number 3 seed, Georgia, in Omaha. They won the national championship by beating the number 5 seed, North Carolina. Congratulations to Oklahoma, and they win the national championship. The big news that I wanted to get to today relative to the NCAA, and we'll talk a lot about how it affects LSU, is the NCAA has now passed the 5-for-5 age limit and eligibility limit regulations. So let's just explain what that means for a minute. When you graduate high school, you now have 5 years to play 5 seasons, or you have from the time you enroll, or you have 5 years from your 19th birthday, whatever is more beneficial to you. So the days of red shirts are over. The days of gray shirts are over. The days of 6, 7, 8-year players are over. The days, for the most part, of applying for injunctions in court so players can be eligible will be over. Now, this begins for the players who are still eligible with eligibility now and the incoming freshmen in the 2027 academic year. As for the players who have used up their eligibility in 2026, they are not being grandfathered in as it currently stands. Now, there's already been a handful of lawsuits about that, and we'll see where that goes. But I have doubts that any of that is going to go anywhere. I think this is going to be the rule, and this is where it's going to start. So let's talk about how this would affect just LSU and players in general, and we'll get to a few different examples. The big question that has been asked is, okay, so now you have 5 to play 5. Let's start with football. So football, up until now, players could play in up to 4 games and still maintain their red shirt. There will be none of that anymore. So if you're an incoming freshman football player, you have 5 years to play 5. If you want to play and your team wants you to play and your coach wants you to play in all 12, 13, 14, however many games there are on special teams, you can do it. Because whether you play in all 14 games or whether you play in 2 games, it doesn't matter. That is year 1. There are no more red shirts. There is no more, technically speaking, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. You're going to be first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. In baseball, that was the other big question. So in the case of Stephen Milam has played 3 years at LSU. LSU was creative in getting him to come back to school and giving him some revenue share and NIL money, and it would basically be thought that he would have lost all of his leverage by coming back. Technically, he wouldn't, because technically he would now play a 4th year. He would still have a 5th year if he wanted to leverage that against the Major League draft. Now, the thing about baseball that is different than the other sports is Major League Baseball wants you to be younger when they get you in their minor league system. So if you come out after your 3 years of college, or 2 years if you were a draft eligible sophomore, they want those players to be able to get into the upper minors pretty quick and contribute pretty quick. Think Rhett Lauder, Nick Kurtz, Paul Skeens, Trey Morgan and Tommy Whiter in AAA. Alex Bregman made the majors very quickly. Dylan Cruz made the majors very quickly. And if they draft you out of high school, that's when they tend to want to try to develop you. So if you played, let's say, 4 years of college instead of 3, you're already going to be older by MLB standards when you get in their minor league system. However, there is also the possibility of Major League Baseball labor disputes and changes to the Major League Baseball draft, which we talked about on a previous episode. If those two things coincide, you may have situations where this would seriously benefit college baseball as a whole and LSU in particular. And then the other big question that is being asked is relative to Will Wade's basketball team. Now, Yam Madar, who is the Israeli point guard who is 25 years old, probably would not be eligible under the terms of this new regulation. There are some things in the new regulation, though, that would make you eligible beyond 5 years. And those things are military service, a pregnancy, if you're in female sports, obviously. And Yam Madar had to do a mandatory 2 years of military service in Israel. So I think LSU is going to still push for Yam Madar to be eligible. As for the other guys, Bryce Desire, I believe, is 23. Marcel Santos is 24. I believe all of the rest of these guys will be okay. I think the two guys that LSU is going to have a difficult time with are RJ Luis, and that's not because of the age thing. That's because he signed an NBA two-way contract, and that is in the rules currently that it makes you ineligible. And I believe they're going to have a tough time with Yam Madar unless they can prove that this military service is enough for him to get a waiver. Even in that scenario, though, I believe Santos, Desire, and Yam Madar at most would all only get 1 year because they'd all be over 24, 25 when next season ended. And again, that is the rule now going forward. You have 5 years from your 19th birthday or 5 years from when you first enroll. So the days of Chris Wenke winning a Heisman Trophy at 28 years old, those days are over because, he would be too old when his minor league baseball career ended. So that's the update on the 5 for 5. I do think this is a good thing. We talked a little bit about this on my radio spot today on WRBE in Lucedale, Mississippi. Shout out to Bruce Thornton and Mikey Herndon and those guys. Great having me on. I think it's a good thing. We need to start having regulations in the NCAA. We need to stop having injunctions from local judges who are partial to these schools and partial to these players. And now we can get a set of rules and regulations which we know these players are eligible. And look, for the college lifers, the ones who don't have much of a pro prospect, think about like a Gavin Dugas or a Jared Poche or Chris Cotton, all of those guys, through the years on the baseball team, LSU baseball would benefit from this because they'd all be able to come back and play a legitimate fifth year. They wouldn't have had to miss seasons to gain a fifth year. Same thing in football. I think you'll keep a lot of your, backup linemen, punters, kickers, guys that maybe don't have, much of a shot at the NFL. I know a lot of these guys tend to think they do, but you might be able to keep and hold on to a few more of these guys for a fourth season for sure, and in some cases a fifth. We will be here to cover it all. I think the next sort of thing that the NCAA needs to consider tackling would be something with the calendar, right, in all of these different sports and the transfer windows. But the NCAA, I said it earlier today, it's like trying to turn a barge around sometimes. So, one thing at a time. We've knocked out this regulation, then we can move on to other business. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. It helps the channel a lot. Please share. Please tell a friend about the podcast. Please tell your friends to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at RobG1124 on Twitter X. Always be good to one another. Always boot up. And always, always, always go Tigers.